Go.
Hi everybody. I wanted to use the opportunity to show you how I am dealing with my writing, literature organization, research, and formatting. So this happens to use a number of tools, and I'm going to give you a very short introduction into them so that you can get an idea how this can actually work. The basic idea is that when I am writing, I do not want to think about formatting. I want to think about the content that I write. I want to have a program that will format my content for me just perfectly, that takes care of cross-referencing, all the stuff you would normally manually do in your favorite word processor. It should do all of this automatically for me. On top of it, I want that I have a literature database which is easily integrated with the whole system, and that is also easily integrated with our library, and that is then able to give me a complete view of all the citations that I do, so that whenever I'm writing a document, only whatever I'm actually citing is going to be in the list of references and so forth. Furthermore, I want to not have a static kind of document template, but I want to have this possibility to shuffle snippets of text around, which I'm collecting, which I'm finding while I'm reading. And I want to have a system where I can arrange those snippets in any order that I want and just add a very little information, not really about formatting, but let's say about structure and references, that does not really obstruct my actual content. And so I'm going to present to you today how this can actually work. On the right side of my screen, you can see the ongoing work of a literature review that I'm writing. There's a table of contents, there is document, there's more document, there's even footnotes, and there is references, and so on. Now, some of you may see immediately that the program that I am using to typeset this content is LaTeX. LaTeX is written like this, L-A-T-A-X, okay? LaTeX is a typesetting environment that I'm not going to introduce here really, that just takes this part of formatting and making cross-references and everything away from you entirely. It comes at an expense. The expense is that you need to have it set up, and also you need to understand it. And in terms of understanding, what I mean by that is that the stuff that I see here on the right side of my screen in LaTeX terms corresponds to something that I come up with here now on the left side of my screen. So, for example, you can see an enumeration down here. You can say section headers, which are like subsection over here, or a section, the evolution of research is over here, and labels and so forth. Now, when I was doing my MBA and like the last 25 years, I have always written in this form that you can see on the left side of my screen. It may sound crazy, but the actual added value of doing that is that, well, I can focus on a normally relatively low amount of commands like subsection and so forth, and cite, author, and at the benefit that I will never have to make sure when I'm under time pressure, for example, that my references are right, my page breaks are right, and so on. This is taken care of by LaTeX. But if you are less of a technical person, then this may get into your way again. And so I was looking for a way to make it a lot simpler. At the same time, I was looking for a way to make it a lot more flexible. Because as you can imagine, On the left side, you may have one document text file, and it contains a certain structure. And during like the 120 papers I was asked to write for my MBA, those papers all had exactly the same structure, same number of chapters and so forth. So I could just fill in some text, and I was getting some output like you see on the right side, which is obviously awesome. So while I can, as a programmer, live with things like section and subsection and so forth, I can't live when I'm doing a doctorate with a relatively strict set of structural elements like section orders and so on. Also, I don't really want to copy stuff around, right? I want to have it easier. Okay, so at this point, we enter a new program that I found. It's not that new, but it was kind of new for me because I had never used it before. It is called Scrivener. Scrivener is a program that is essentially designed to help authors of novels organize their ideas. So whatever you're looking at, you can look at it in terms of corkboards or in a hierarchy of elements about stuff that you're writing. Now that sounds a lot like my thoughts about having the possibility to arrange text snippets in any order and way. So when I looked at Scrivener, I saw that it has even the possibility to do kind of an export to LaTeX, but then I found out that that one is really absolutely not stable and slow, and it's not sufficient for what I needed. But fortunately, this program, Scrivener, has an open file format for the assets that it contains, which allowed me to write my own program, which takes the content that I can type into Scrivener and generate my own LaTeX file from it. So what you see here, like 3 hash marks, the evolution of research and so on, is later converted by a program that I've written into this section with label and so on automatically. Okay, and I will never have to look at that again. Furthermore, what you see is that this citation, this has developed the last 40 years, and then Donald Karatko, Hornsby, and Hayton. Okay, this is a citation in brackets, the easiest form of a citation with a page number. And I would just write it like this, rather than, as I would previously have written in LaTeX, the exact same output being generated by this over here. Okay, this is the same thing. And so you can see things like cite over here very often in LaTeX documents. Now, essentially what I've done over here, LaTeX is a markup language, so you add marks to what you want the typesetter to understand. I created a markdown language for it, which basically takes away the 10 or so very typical commands that you always need, like section, subsection, subsection, citation, labels, references, and so on. And instead of that, created a very simple language, which, for me, and with my 25 years of experience in LaTeX, would resolve at least 90% of the formatting that I have. Some things I don't cover, some things I don't cover yet, but most of the things that I have here are taking away a lot of not only typing, but more importantly, visual space. So I very much prefer looking at something like this rather than looking at something like this. It is for LaTeX exactly the same thing, but notice that I have to type those curly braces, I would have to type those special quotes and so on. All of this I do not have to do if I just use my little markup language. It looks a lot cleaner. Now, you could obviously say, well, why are you solving a problem that I don't even have? So what is the advantage of using LaTeX, besides that it takes away all the formatting from you, all the cross-referencing from you, everything that has to do with document structure? On the left side, you see the thing that I talked about before, that I have a structure of assets, which I can now talk about. So a lot of things that I have here are basically just content elements which I'm throwing around and which I want to later be part of my document. If I would like to work like this in a program like Word for Windows, I would be copying around a lot of text. LaTeX takes the formatting from me. The nightmare you have with Word that pictures flow around and indentations get just wrong and all this stuff. This gets completely solved by LaTeX. You now pay for it by having a markup language and having to deal with text files. And so this is taken away by this integration that I did with Scrivener. And so let's see how it works. But before we do so, let's create some more content, right? And here comes into play now the next part of the thing, which is the literature database. Let's have a look at my literature database. I'm using a program called BibDesk, which exists for the Mac and which is, I would say, EndNote on steroids. So you can see keywords, folders of stuff that I'm doing, and literature entries. You can see a preview that is using LaTeX again in order to show exactly the same stuff that you would see should you use the reference in your document. Let's just go to this document. I open it in a program called Skim, which is pretty good for annotating stuff. So you can see that I'm having here some article that refers to some other article, and I actually would like to read this article over here from Koratko and Aldrich. Okay, so as you see, it's very similar to my own documents. You can just click on something and it will just send you to the place where you had this. So this is this one, right? 2013 from Koratko. And now we want to fetch this article and all the metadata for it. So 2013, look what we can do. Directly out of this literature manager, I have a bookmark, which brings me directly to our library, where I can, of course, log in. Once I'm logged in, I can just go to Arc Online, the same thing you would normally do. Go to my advanced search, paste my title, my author, and do a search. Here's the result. Let's have a look at it. As you can see, here's the metadata. Of course, I don't want to type this by hand. And there's a link to the article. And there's, first of all, the thing that I would like to do, I take this permalink with me. So it's a nice function. I just copy it. And then, but what I more importantly want to do, I want to export all this data right into my literature database. So here's an export button. And as you see, there is something that talks about BibTeX, which is what I use. So I just say save. Now watch what happens down here. There's an import button. I click this button. There's now an entry to this article. Just double click the article. And so some metadata didn't get along. Normally it does. The year didn't really get along. So let's just, which we remember. I don't like the way this is formatted, so I'm just going to remove it. And I have just copied it before into my clipboard. So I have a little program that I've written to extend BibDesk to write it in a different way. Also, the side key isn't pretty good. So there is a hotkey to fix that. And also it did try to directly download the article, but wasn't able to because there is a login screen in front. So just we can remove this, which was the login screen. And the rest of the information is already quite good. But we now go to our search result again. Go just one step back, where we have this link to the full text. Now here's the document that I can see on ProQuest. I just click the Save button. It gives me an arbitrary file name. I really couldn't care less, and for a reason that I'll show in a second. So just save it into my Downloads folder. Now, here's my Downloads folder. It is just here, the document right now. So what we are going to do, we go back to BibDesk. We go back to what we still have open, this editor for the metadata. And now we take the document from our download folder. Watch what happens. I pull this over here, and it's gone. It's not really gone. Actually, it's now been moved into my iCloud drive, so that I will likewise be able to work with it on my iPad. It's being uploaded here right now. It just did that. So this is the file where it is now. It has been renamed according to the metadata, which is good because it's much more easy to understand what this PDF is then. Now what I'm going to do is have a quick look with a preview at this file. So we just double click it and see the metadata of the file. If you look at that, you can see the title, the author and stuff, also the keywords here, they are all not set, right? So it's already a searchable file because it is actual text. Otherwise I would have to run an OCR on it, which I normally do in these cases if it's not readable, but I don't cover this here. But I would also like to have, as part of the file directly, the metadata that I have in BibDesk. And so, of course, there's a way to do so. So let's just go back to our last import here. So remember this one, right? Which is the same as this metadata. Now, I just had hit one command, which executes a little extension I've written to BibDesk. It merges the metadata into the PDF. And here you can see what it has just done. One thing that I've also noticed just before while I was staring at this was just the journal name. It's just capitalized, which I don't like. So just fix that, just mark it. There's a little tool on the Mac called PopClip where you can do certain things easily, like so. Right, so just to check back again, let's go now to our downloaded file, double click it again, and as you will be able to see once it's open, and we go to the metadata of the file, you see that the keywords were taken on, the authors were merged into it, the title was merged into the metadata. This is now very, very retrievable and findable on your computer once you have it this way, right? Okay, let's close it. And now we want to utilize it. So look at this is the site key. Okay, we could just copy it, but there is even a better way. So we can close this now. And now let's have a look. Let's read a bit about whatever Donald Karabko, my mentor, has written here. And let's cite it. So that, of course, is something that definitely needs to be cited. Okay. So we just copy that text. And it's on page, well, 223. So we just hit yet another command that I've done as an extension to Skim, which jumps it forward with a marked article that I have. I can put this in, and I can create the citation. Before I do so, I go to my Scrivener, and I'm going to write a little new text about it. So, add a text. Now, that's obviously not correct, right? Because these are multiple authors. And also we need the page reference here. So first of all, we get our page reference as a cite here command and paste it just right here. Secondly, for here, we do the same thing again and just get the authors. Done. And we know there are more of them, so just make it grammatically right. I tend to mark with colors when I do these things, because later for me it's easier to see whom I'm referring to. But anyhow, that's a bit of a text, right? And this is now in the context of this, what we had written over here. See? Oh yeah, and if we now look actually at our preview of our document, you can see that we had Jennings and Young first of all. Well, I would like to have Karatko first, so just put this over here, drag and drop, right? And now, finally what we do, we just let this generate again. So just jump over here, and the little script that I wrote, literature research, will just generate for us all the content that we want to have. As you can see, it has taken all the assets from Scrivener, including the new one which we had just here. It has extracted them. It has run LaTeX on it, which has found out that there is a new reference. So it ran the bibliography part of LaTeX and then did everything that we need. So all of this is automatic, right? You just run it. And that then gives me just the changed content, right? So I made a little mistake here. I just put this thing over the section heading here. So let's fix it, right? So the way to fix it is, of course, we just go in here, and as you can see now, yeah, the section heading is of course not where it should be. So let's put it just somewhere here, right? Go in there, paste my stuff over here. And something else that I want to do, I think I don't really want to talk about the 1970s, just thought about it while it was doing it, because that's kind of long ago. So how can we get rid of it? And if we do get rid of it, will we also see that what 1980s is 1.2 will then automatically become 1970s? And will all the references on like cited on page 4 and so on, will they all be updated? So let's try. What do we need to do in order to just exclude it? We could delete it here, but there's a much better way. We just click on this asset there, and over here is a checkbox. We can just tick it. That means including compilation. We don't do that, and that will apply to all the stuff that is inside. So there's a whole bunch of stuff inside. It's all going to be excluded now. So let's go back and just run it again. Very simple. Up arrow and enter. Now, as you can see, before we had something about 1970 over here. This stuff is no longer there. That also entails, of course, that our references change, which is why the reference part of LaTeX was run again. Looking more at the output in which we are much more interested, we just go back to the file. You can see that we start with the 1980s, and everything else has just completely been adapted. Also, the fix that we did for the headline is in there, right? So, as you can see, all of this was completely automatically generated based on what I had written over here and what I had downloaded from our literature database. So that is basically what I wanted to show to you. To say again, here is a way where you can organize the parts, the thoughts that you have, the snippets of ideas that you have into a big hierarchical box of snippets. Here's also a way how you can easily get content from our library and get that content directly into a literature database with all the metadata and so forth, and get the annotation into the PDF and have the PDF automatically also then available on all my iDevices if I want, right? As an added value, what I can show to you, this is actually absolutely not planned, but it should be working. I'm going to use my iPad and try to work on this document which we have just imported. So let's see how that works out. Right, as you remember, we have this document over here. Okay, now I have my iPad over here, and I'm going to open a program on that iPad which is called GoodReader. And in GoodReader, I just go to the file that I've opened here, and I go to my iCloud. Now this was from Karatko, so and let's see if he actually does refresh. Yeah, he did. So there's the 2013. Tells me today 2049 it was imported. So it's fetching this file now, and I'm seeing it here, and I'm seeing it over there. So let's make it bigger. And I don't know if you will be able to see that, what I'm going to do, but I'm going to annotate the file in real time. So I'm just going to draw a line. And I just drew a line. And I'm just going to save this annotation. And what I have observed happening now, so it found it out, it told me, okay, the document was refreshed. Do you want to do it automatically? Yeah, I want. And now it has it over here. And now I do some other annotation on it, because I like to read on my iPad. So I'm going to do some highlighting over here, right? And I'm going to save it. And since I've set the document now to refresh automatically, it should actually automatically happen directly, like in a matter of seconds, here, as you can see here. So that is what I also wanted to show to you. If you do the integration between iCloud and GoodReader, Skim and GoodReader, you can read on your iPad. You can use your hands. If you have this iPad Pro, you can use your hands at any time to do some annotation and really just do it on the go, right? You can underline stuff and so forth. The moment you save the annotation, it'll typically appear directly in the document that you have opened on your computer. You don't do anything manually for that. It does it automatically. It just did it here, right? So that's actually a pretty nice added workflow that I have, because sometimes I don't like to read on my computer. Sometimes I want to use my hand to annotate some stuff, and I can do it just the way I would like to. So that's what I wanted to share with you. It's a pretty long video. When we meet, if you are interested, I could help you with getting set up exactly the same thing that I have. Thanks for watching.
Yo.